This episode of Shootin The Shiznit is brought to you by WeHaveMerch.com. WeHaveMerch.com. Standard size shirts at only $12.99. Shirts include I'm a Shiznitter, my old buddy, Cool Kids Countdown logo, Shootin The Shiznit logo, Happy Shiznit Day, and many more. Order your shirt today at WeHaveMerch.com.
Have you listened to episode 93 with Memphis area wrestler Rude? Here's a clip, download, or you can listen to all the archives at www.stspod.club.
They need some extra bodies at WWE, you know, like I'm on my way. I'm telling my boss right now I'm taking the rest of the day off. I'm on my way. So Derek was responsible for the ones in Memphis. The television appearance that I made on Sunday Night Heat, tagging with Alan Steele. I listened to Alan Steele's interview, and this is the true story behind that. The true story behind that was the original booking was Alan Steele and John Michaels. Okay, Sir Mo called me and he said, "Rude, if I gave you a WWE booking, the date and everything, and where you're supposed to be at, would you forget?" And I said, "Hell no, I wouldn't forget that." And he said, "Good. Here's the two dates right here." He said, "It's you and Alan Steele going to Huntsville, Alabama, and Birmingham, Alabama." I said, "Cool." And that's how that came about. Is actually it was John Michael, and supposedly John Michael I took it as John Michael either chickened out or legitimately forgot. But anyway, I don't know if him and Mo had words. I don't know. I didn't care. I wasn't gonna miss my time, my opportunity. John Cena, my time is now. I took it, and so I called Poker and I said, "Poker Face, Mo just called me, and me and Alan Steele are going to Birmingham, Alabama, and
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's start the party. Ladies and gentlemen.
In May of 2006, I started a website, WrestlingRiotOnline.com, where I covered the Memphis area wrestling scene. I decided to become the Dave Meltzer of the area and kayfabe nothing. I gave stars to matches, talked psychology, and gave gates of the shows. This had never been done, and it was a favorite side of many people, and some people just hated me. In May of 2011, after 5 years of posting, I shut the site down. I opened it again when we started the podcast back up and renamed it. But all the old information, guys, is still there. This month, to celebrate the site, we will be posting the Memphis in May series, with guests being some of the wrestlers of the Memphis series. Guys that were popular during the Wrestling Riot years. Sit back and relax and listen to our guests and enjoy Memphis in May. All right, I'm going to bring on my guest, Simon Reed. Simon Reed, come on over from the green room. Welcome to Shootin The Shiznit.
What's up, Coach?
Hey, man. You know, I bring people on here that I don't know, or I bring people on here that, I've known for a long time. So I'm not... God, was I at your first match? Because I was at Dustin's first match. Was that your first match also?
I would say it was the first match after we went through the Don Bass whole training thing.
Right.
You know, like I say technically my first match that was, I guess you would say real after Don Bass, where he said, "Oh, these are the yard book right here." We wrestled with, man, I wanted to say it was like I mean, Psycho was there. That's the first time I met Psycho. It was Wynn, Arkansas, I know. But I'm trying to think of the promotion's name. It was that Rampage is what it was.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
Tim Hansen.
Yeah.
I wanted to say CCW, you know, and but then I knew that wasn't it. But I remember Psycho and the two Leprechaun guys, but I wrestled Alex Crisis. Dustin and Jet Logan had wrestled the week before at a show. But, you know, like I had done some stuff, like these guys in Dyersburg had asked me to, you know, to do some stuff one time. And I was like, sure. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that, you know? But it wasn't, you know, it wasn't anything like, you know, like you had no clue what you were, you know, getting into.
Right. You didn't really know what you were doing. You weren't trained or anything like that.
Right. You take bumps and do moves. That's it.
And there's still people that don't know what they're doing and still bump and do moves. So,
I don't bump.
You don't bump anymore, do you?
No, maybe it is Lil'Chris. or Mr. Chris.
There you go. Well, we, you know, what we're doing is I'm bringing back some people that were when I was doing Wrestling Right, there's some people that were big stars or still stars in that area. You guys are still working all the time. Well, not as much as you was then, but I want to bring some of you guys back on and kind of celebrate the Wrestling Right. It's been dead and gone for a while now, but we still have the site up. But I want to first start. Let's start when you was a kid and what you actually got. What got you into professional wrestling?
Well, actually, the craziest thing is, you know, when you talk about wrestling, somebody in your family always loves it, and they like pass it down. And you know, not knowing, I guess, the history in your family, but then when somebody finds out you like it, like later, like my mom will tell me about stories about her dad's mother. Used to live in Dyersburg, and the Fargos would come over and smoke cigars with her when they used to run the Southtown Sportatorium.
Wow.
And, I mean, this was like back in, you know, I mean, the day.
Right.
I'm talking about, because she was old when I was a little kid, and I remember she was like old as a mug, so she was just like an old lady when they came around. I mean, but her son, which was my grandfather, did not like wrestling. I mean, just wasn't into it. But his son was, which is my mom's brother. Well, he would have us watching Memphis Wrestling when we'd stay over at the house, you know, on Channel 5. And really it was like kind of crazy because me and my cousins, I mean, loved the Fabulous Ones. That was the first people we really loved, just the music. And then we were big fans of NWA, so we loved Road Warriors. And so, you know, I was like Hawk, he was Animal. We'd always play on the trampoline and stuff. And like his dad, you know, kind of I'm not pushed it on us, but we, you know, he was the one that got us excited about it because he was so excited about it. But in the 80s, you can imagine, everybody loved it. He grew up loving it because his grandma loved it. And then my cousin, his son, really didn't like it that much. I mean, he likes it, but not like we, you know, me and you and, you know, everybody else, like,
right,
oh boy,
right.
obsessed over it. And what's crazy is that Superman, I mean, you know, my cousin, my smaller cousin, I feel like I kind of passed it on him because his mom doesn't like it, his dad doesn't like it, but I made him watch it. You know, we came up on that Memphis Wrestling and that TBS era, and we would go to the movies over at my grandma's house and rent those old Coliseum home videos, and each one of those, you know, Starcade, Chi-Town Heat, you know, anything they had, Growing Up the Wrestling movie. I mean, we would rent any wrestling, anything that had a wrestler on the front of it each week when we sat at my granny's house. And that's just how it all got started for us. Hulk Hogan, obviously, those big stars from back in the day. And really we were, I mean, Eric, you know, I guess me and him love Ultimate Warrior and Sting. I mean, I was not as big as Ultimate Warrior as he was, but he wasn't as big into Sting as I was. And then, you know, just super big. I mean, I just have to say it, mark for Sting and Ultimate Warrior.
Right,
and I mean, we all are to a certain point. I mean, as a kid, loved the Moondogs, truly scared of them in real life when we were little kids. I remember going to the Dyersburg Activity Center, and they actually had, just like if you think about who's the guys, like Buddy Landale was on the car, Doug Gilbert, Eddie Gilbert. Actually, like Dustin Rhodes was on there when he wore underwear trunks, which was crazy because I was thinking, man, you see these guys dress where we go and dress to go swimming. But the Moondogs didn't dress where you could get to them. We didn't know, that Larry Booker lived in Dyersburg, but so they come in from the outside, and I'm talking about people are running, scared. The whole crowd's running away from them and stuff. But huge fans of those guys. Jimmy Valiant, love Billy Joe Travis, Too Sexy Brian Christopher. When he was really cool back in the day. PG-13, all those dudes. That was our time coming up and watching it on TV. And then,
I talk about that, but people don't realize. You coming from the Memphis area, and all these guys we're going to talk to have this same story. We talk about all these guys on the Memphis Wrestling that we watched every week, and we didn't. You wanted to be those guys. You grew up wanting to be, the Fabulous Ones or the Moondogs. It wasn't like you was growing up trying to be a superhero. It was like wrestling was so popular. That's what everyone did on the playground. I remember being on the playground and trying to pile drive somebody. It's just shit.
Dude, Red Rover. We would do. It wasn't Red Rover. It was just a double clothesline to us.
Yeah.
You Red Rover, send somebody over, but you double clothesline them, and you'd be down there, and my cousin would always just do the Road Warriors deal, we dressed like the Road Warriors for Halloween, and Ultimate Warrior for Halloween. Anybody we could find.
Well, I remember trying to talk one of my friends into laying down on the ground while I was swinging. Now, I was a fat kid, so, I was a fat ass back then, so I was really wanting to swing, jump out of the swing like we always did, but I wanted to jump out of the swing and do a splash on him. And he never would let me do it. I was like, come on, man, it ain't going to hurt, I really
Where'd
thought.
you go to school at?
I went there in Steele, Missouri. So yeah,
Right. He must have been the smartest person though.
They actually let us, jump out of swings back in until some idiot broke his arm. So, so you came up, Memphis Wrestling area, and all these guys you repeat everyone that I was a big fan of. Always the Fabs were the team. I've talked about this before. I remember they were not a favorite team of the guys, really, until they had that Moondogs feud because they bled and everything there and then. Because we used to call them, and this is not politically correct these days, but we used to call them the Fags. And so until they had the feud with the Moondogs, and all of a sudden they were real men because they bled and everything. So it was hilarious. So what got you talk about being trained with Don Bass when we first started talking. So what got you actually into wrestling? How did you actually open the door to get into wrestling?
I'm, giving people props, I guess, out of nowhere, but, Tim Edwards, I don't know if anybody, if you're not familiar with him, he's just, a guy from Dyersburg, big guy, stayed in the Dyersburg area. He actually went to this youth group thing with me and some of my friends on, church group, youth group. And Chris Fury, Chris O'Neill, whatever you want to call him, we all went to this Winterfest thing. And so at that time, NWO was crazy, and you had NWO versus WCW. And so everybody was somebody. And my buddy Jason, he had some black, I guess, tights. He was Eddie Guerrero, frog splashing people, and then I had a hairy chest even in high school, so I was Scott Hall, obviously, and I always had the curl. My other buddy Edgar, he's just crazy, but he was a football player, so I don't know why he chose this person, but he always wanted to be Steve McMichael, and you don't want to be Steve McMichael. right. He just wanted to forearm people in the back all the time. And like, so we all were at this church deal, and Tim, I guess saw that we like wrestling, so he asked, and Chris O'Neill was the WCW guy. We're all NWO, so we jumped him at the church thing, which was fun. But you got to pick on Chris, but anyway. But Tim Edwards asked me, he said, "Man, do y'all want to come to wrestling?" And we were like, "What? Wrestling?" He said, "I'd like for you to commentate." And I'm thinking, commentate? What are you talking about?
Right.
As a person growing up, you think Memphis is. I mean, with us, we thought Memphis was bigger than the WWF. WWE,
Oh yeah,
whatever.
true. Yeah.
It was bigger than NWA. It was our thing, and it was huge. I mean, it was just ridiculous. It was huge, and so. Man, I guess I never realized that there was anything like independent wrestling. I thought, Memphis Wrestling was like these guys this is their job. I mean, it's what they're doing.
Yeah, and independent back then was kind of like one of those. It was called Outlaw, is what it was, because they didn't. Yeah, none of the guys from Memphis hardly ever worked any of the Outlaw shows because they were the guys weren't properly trained or anything. So it was kind of.
And if they did work an Outlaw show, you had one guy who was making a bunch of money off of the the promoter of an Outlaw show.
Oh yeah.
But he asked us, so we go up there, and I sat in the booth. I mean, I had no clue what to do. And I remember Big Nasty Beale, I call him Big Nasty William, just to be joking. But I remember him, some guy from Mississippi that we wrestled with later, that kind of like tried to do the Kevin Nash deal. I can't remember the dude's name at all. I remember Black Jack Daniels, and then these other guys that were just, local guys, which to us, when we saw them, we were like, dude, this is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, because they did have a crowd. I have to give them that. I mean, they had a crowd. And so it kind of like sparked the interest. Just like that, it wasn't even on my map, at that time. And so, playing basketball and doing other stuff, hanging out, and all that. And I happened to be at a church league game and rolled my ankle and broke it. And we were going to ECW, me, Chris O'Neill, and Superman, a couple of my other friends at the Municipal Auditorium. We went to that, and it was like, dude, that I knew when we went to that show, I was like, man, I was pumped, dude. And then we came home that Saturday, and I'm laying in the bed, and Power Pro comes on, and they had an advertisement for the Don Bass School of Wrestling. My dad goes, I said, I'm going to call that. And he said, all right, call him and see. And so my dad was like, I'll take you down there. My grandma, was like, I'll pay the money. And we went to Don Bass. We met Don Bass at the Flash Market in Jericho. Or not Jericho, but, right there, West Memphis, and then followed him to Jericho, which was, have you ever been over there?
Yeah, I know exactly where it is, yeah.
I'm thinking, man, just Don Bass, man, we're going to ride over his house and then go to, wherever he's going. I'm sure he's got this awesome facility. And, you pull up and you're like, what? But in your eyes, if it had been a regular person pulling up, they'd have been like, dude, I'm turning around. But to us, I had Chris O'Neill with me, my other buddy. We pulled up, and just that little barn to us was like Madison Square Garden. Just to see, the training center, because you take it serious, and it doesn't. It was, dude, that's Don Bass.
He was on television. I say this, but we watched these people on television every week. They were, the way I always describe it is, how we used to watch reruns of Gilligan's Island and I Dream of Jeannie and shit like that.
Right.
It was like we were hanging out or being with Gilligan all day
right.
when we started meeting these guys, because these guys were not just wrestlers. They were superstars to us. They were television superstars. Okay, wait, we're going to take a quick commercial. We'll be back in about 1 minute here.
All right.
This episode of Shootin The Shiznit is brought to you by WeHaveMerch.com. WeHaveMerch.com. Standard size shirts at only $12.99. Shirts include I'm a Shizniter, my old buddy, Cool Kids Countdown logo, Shootin The Shiznit logo, Happy Shiznit Day, and many more. Order your shirt today at WeHaveMerch.com.
All right, we're back with Simon Reed. Simon, we've already talked halfway through this, and you guys, you was trained by Don Bass, and then, you know, always in the Memphis area. You've been on Memphis television, and we talked about Wrestling Riot, and I want to hear about the Posse and how you actually started the team, the Posse, with Lil'Chris, but just for I'm gonna throw this out so that people that don't know about Wrestling Riot or don't know who Simon Reed is, what the Posse meant during those 5 years. You guys were on our very first yearbook as Tag Team of the Year that we did. You were nominated. Lil'Chris was nominated for Rookie of the Year. You guys, right. Gimmick of the Year, Arena Match, Team, Gimmick. You won Rookie of the Year. Chris did Gimmick, Arena Match, Team. Top 10 rankings, always, you know, number 2 team, number 8 team, number 9 team. Y'all were always right. Involved in Memphis, in the Memphis area. Here's one of the things that I wrote in the yearbook and that I remember to this day. I wrote one of the most over teams in the area that I've witnessed live. I mean, guys, I can't tell you now. We're talking crowds anywhere from 120 to 200, but as soon as y'all guys would hit the curtain kind of thing, just screams and carrying on. But you guys were selling like a buttload of T-shirts when no one knew what selling gimmicks was all about. Photographs, T-shirts. But here's the arena match that y'all won Match of the Year. It was against Hot Topic.
Yeah, Blackie Fargo and Stanley Tudo.
Yeah. There was fans in the crowd actually crying. They were crying because there was 2 babyface teams going against each other. They didn't know who to pick. All the kids wanted y'all to win. But there was kids in the crowd crying with y'all getting beat up. And that's just, in the 2007 yearbook, actually, y'all's guys' picture on it still goes down as the highest selling yearbook that we ever had. So that was just kind of when it comes to the Posse and what you guys did in the area when I was covering, was, you know, top notch, one of those things. So let's go. The Posse actually started with Dustin Starr, who's been on the show a couple of times. But tell us, you went from Dustin Starr and y'all were y'all doing the Beale Street Posse, right? Or what were y'all doing?
Well, so the gimmick was Jet Logan. I mean, obviously none of us really worked out or anything like that. Jet Logan was just, I mean, dude, he was older than us, and he'd been Mr. Mississippi, like team bodybuilder type dude. You know, so he was our Joey Abs. You know, because they had the Main Street Posse on Channel 30, and we were like, you know, I mean, we were doing all the training. We come up there to the Power Pro early on TV5, and we're like, man, if we could tell Randy our gimmick, and you know, Derek will get us on TV or whatever, and you know how that is. Like, Alex has some crazy ideas. Alex was
right.
I mean, he just had some different ideas. Like, it was crazy. He was like, I'm going to tag with Wolfie and do this Lord Sam Hale gimmick. I was like, dude, you're crazy, man. But it just kind of started as a joke. Like, they said they had the Main Street Posse, and we were calling Dustin Dusty Pipes instead of Joey Abs. And then, you know, we're like, if we went against them, you know, and all that stuff. And so we said, we'll call ourselves the Beale Street Posse. And it was a backstage joke thing. And we had wrestled like in Corinth, and me and Dustin had wrestled at Sex and Violence. And we wrestled like for like Motley before, like River City Hardcore. And we almost had like a riot with Little White, the rapper. We didn't know, you know, he was going to be Little White or whatever. But Chevy Force Click, I mean, me and Dustin were like doing Vanilla Ice and like and wrestling in club shirts, and he was hot at us. And I mean, it was just hilarious, you know. And so we had this deal, and then we wrestled like with Derek and all those guys down in Corinth with Rodney Grimes, and so we're like wrestling and everything. Well, we'd really not been called the Beale Street Posse. It was like a backstage joke, kind of running joke. Well, then we were taping TV5 in Dyersburg on, like, I think Tuesday nights and, like, double tapings. So, like, Lawler was there and Brian was there. And Sir Mo said, man, Lawler said, I need somebody, wrestle first. Somebody's going to wrestle Brian, somebody's going to wrestle me. And then the next tape, and they're going to come back, do a tag match or whatever. So Mo goes, man, I got these two guys that are, that are going to do a tag match. They didn't want to tag and stuff. They're a good tag team. So he said, put them in there. So Dustin wrestled Brian. I wrestled Lawler. We jump Lawler. Brian comes to make the save. And that was like the first night, we tagged. So we said we were at Beale Street Posse. And then, in Dyersburg, the first time we got shirts, I mean, dude, we sold them all the first night. And then, it kind of goes on. Well, Jet Logan kind of fell out. We had, Jason Reed was in there. And, then me and Dustin, we kind of went around, did USA Wrestling. We've been Nashville, Alabama, all these little places. And, then we started doing, like, the lifeguard thing, too, just to, because I was a lifeguard. And so that was, we just started kind of doing that. And when we came back to Memphis, Corey said something about us doing a different gimmick instead of doing the posse. So he said, let's do, that lifeguard gimmick. And our manager, April Pennington in Nashville, was the manager of Moondogs. So it was crazy. Well, then, man, I was going to college and stuff, and I just kind of, like, one week, I remember, like, going to a party at school, and then, like, I couldn't remember, like, how many weeks I missed in a row. But I had met Lil'Chris in class, and, like, I never told Lil'Chris I wrestled or anything like that. I mean, like, I just knew him, like, he was, like, sitting beside us, and he fell asleep, and me and this dude, we wrote some vulgar stuff on his paper while he was asleep and put some arrows to him. I'm not going to say what it was, but it was pretty bad. And, like, never put him over, never said hey to him or anything. Well, that was, like, on a Monday. And on Wednesday night, which was the big party night at Martin, we invited him over to the baseball party. And so Lil'Chris comes over, and he's at the party with a little disposable camera taking pictures. He's, just tore up, but he's like, this is the best time of my life, taking pictures of people like, we don't know him, And, well, then, talking to him in the class, he's from Memphis. We invited him to come hang out. So we start hanging out, doing some things. And we were hitting this back road after about 6 months of hanging out, me and Superman and Lil'Chris. And, man, I'm telling you, we're in Martin, Tennessee. We're riding around this back road. This freaking dude has a wrestling ring in his yard. I was like, man, dude, I didn't even want to keep going when I saw it. I tried to play it off. Lil'Chris goes, bro, that dude's got a wrestling ring in his yard. And so we had to pull up. We pull in. The guy's name is Blaze. He wrestled like for Killer.
Yeah, yeah. I know who he is, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like, I didn't know him at the time. Like, at that time, like, I never, he knew me, obviously. And so he was more than happy to, like, let us play in the ring whenever we wanted to. And so we just kind of showed Lil'Chris some stuff. And, we had to kind of tell him that, we've been wrestling. So I had to show him all the, fill him in on all the details. And he's like, dude, we love wrestling. My parents love it. They, all this stuff. And, they actually came to Tupelo a few weeks ago. His parents did. They never come. And so that was really awesome for him. They came when we did Tupelo a few weeks ago and made his day, though. But it just, it was crazy. And so we talked about this. I was still a man, I was in cheerleading and all this other kind of stuff. And Lil'Chris wanted to go with Superman. And they went to Dyersburg. Well, the entertainment center was closing, so they was like, man, I want y'all, everybody to come back to do the show. So I said, man, I really don't even feel like, I didn't really know where my stuff was at the time. So I said, I'll do, like an 8-man tag. We all will do some kind of street fight. And so we all went out there like, you know how you do when you do the Dusty Rhodes, you got your knee pads on the outside of your blue jeans, feeling, and you can whoop somebody. And we wrestled Naughty by Nature with Danny Be Good, and they had Lady Vixen on the side, and so that was like Lil'Chris's real first match. And Jason, our buddy, who wrestled sporadically, like once maybe a year, and they're running around the ring, and dude cuts the corner, and Vixen hits him straight with a 2x4, smokes him in the chest. Just boom, knocks dude out. It was the most funniest thing I ever seen. And then like Poker Face is chopping the dog piss out of Lil'Chris. You know, so like their first match, I mean, they were going in there with, you know, legit guys. I mean, you know, naughty by nature. I mean, some of the toughest guys. You know,
and what we y'all went from like the Beale Street Posse to the gimmick. Tell me about the Posse gimmick. Why did y'all paint on the face, kind of a punk rock gimmick, skateboarder punk rock gimmick?
What's crazy is like, so I was just kind of doing my stuff, and Lil'Chris, you know, was coming out to like Beastie Boys and just doing like kind of like cruiserweight matches type stuff, you know, saying let him wrestle, be on show and stuff, and we had talked about getting some tights, and so we got Lil'Chris and Jay had some tights, and me and Riley had some tights. We ordered them from Mexico. Well, they came in, and obviously everything was lost in translation. Everything was supposed to be white, black, and pink, and the butt of my tights, it was white, black, and pink everywhere except for the butt was red. And so I'm like, what? I mean, I couldn't wear it. So we just kind of went through some weird issues with it, but we were going to get these jackets and call it Phi Omega Theta, pot, because we were at the fraternity, and we just, we never got to that point. And then Jay dropped off, and Lee dropped off, and I had this jersey that it has like a number 1 on the front and 420 on the back. Tasha Simone had made it, and it just said Posse on the front. And I was like, man, let's just go by the Posse. And Derek goes, well, I mean, we can't do that because you're in, obviously, how that fake rep, how we are, but I was doing the heavyweight matches, and he didn't want to, he was like, you don't want to go down and just be in a tag team, stuff like that. So we did an OCL on a Friday. And he was like, if this ever gets over, I'm going to join the Posse, whatever, which he never did. So Blackie still owes me that one.
But it got so popular in that area, the Posse was, and that's it's really funny how, like I said, with
dude, it was crazy.
It's nutty. Here's something you guys kind of introduced. When I started the website, I went out there and put like an article about Psychology 101. I know you remember, like, some of the guys had no fucking idea what I was talking about. And even guys didn't even know what the word kayfabe meant. So I do a Psychology 101, and then like some guys are picking up on it and kind of understand it. And you went to some WWE things with Nova. I know you went to some things like that where they talked about psychology, and you guys started doing something that got y'all so over, and no one really understood it except I put something on the website one time, and it was like, hell, that's what they do. But y'all decided that y'all could take an ass whipping pretty much 90% of the match, and that got y'all over more than anything else. It was double heat. Nobody was doing double heat. Everybody was doing the hot tag, or blocking the hot
couple
tag.
Punches, clothesline.
Yeah. And so what y'all did was, Lil'Chris gets the hot tag, you boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden they would cut you off, beat the hell out of you for another 10 minutes, and then get the other hot tag. And guys, if you've never been in an arena with the Posse doing double heat, getting the last hot tag and it meaning something, it really meant something. And it got you, that's one of the things that I always remember, and it always got y'all over and made y'all different. People don't understand. There's so many baby faces out there that don't understand. Jerry Lawler, Hulk Hogan, they all got their asses beat, then made the big comeback. And that's what got their... We're pretty much out of time, but I want to tell this story, and I hope it actually gets over, and people can actually appreciate it. My children were huge Posse fans, especially the baby girl, Beth. And so, they wanted T-shirts, they want everything, they want a picture taken with you guys. There's a couple of Posse stories I got to tell. So all of a sudden, we pull up to the arena. And so my baby girl's Posse. She wants to see the Posse. And y'all pulled up right next to us. When you got out of your vehicle, there was like, it was like a Cheech and Chong movie. Let me just say, okay. So there was a bunch of smoke coming out of the vehicle, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Because I was fixing to take her up to meet y'all and her say hi, and I was like, "No." I said, "They're busy right now. They're busy." So she didn't get to meet y'all until y'all went into the outside, when y'all were autographing and everything. But I always thought that was funny. And then I had. Unknowingly to me, I had a hole in my roof on my house. And I know this sounds weird that this ends up being a posse story, but I'm sitting in my front room, and underneath my desk, I think it's my cat. Well, it's not my cat; it's a fucking possum. And so I have to call animal control. I have my mom to come over to get my oldest kids to take them to her house because I had a possum in my house. That's all I wanted is for my ex to find out that I had some kind of varmint in my house.
Right.
And so my baby girl's coming over to my house, and my mom's already told her there's a possum over there. And she is so excited. She's like almost crying. And my mom says, "What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you?" She goes, "Mama, the posse's over there. The posse's over there." And she goes, "No, it's a possum." So we and Simon, we're going to have to bring you back some other time. We got plenty of posse stories, possum stories too. But thanks for coming on. We do appreciate it, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll be here same bat time, same bat channel on the best little wrestling podcast in the business. Love my mama. Be there. Thanks, Simon. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for joining us live from SDS Studios in St. Louis, Missouri. And that was another great episode of Shootin' the Shiznit. A big thank you to Bob McGee at Pro Wrestlers Between the Sheets, PWBTS.com. Locals to Legends, Gene Jackson at www.localstolegends.com. Sean Garmer over at W2Mnet.com. Guys, we're at Comic Book Mark BT on Twitter, at BT Shootin' the Shiznit on Instagram. You can send a PayPal. That's right, a PayPal at Brian_Tramel, Tramel, at yahoo.com. All the archives are on our www.stspod.club page. That's right, Cool Kids Wrestling and MMA Talk Facebook group. You can join that and talk about wrestling. If we don't like you, we'll kick you out. There's also a Shootin' the Shiznit Facebook page where we actually post all the new episodes. Remember, you can listen to this episode and many more on iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM, Pop Paradise, and Spreaker. And finally, a shout out to our podcast bros: Suplex City Limits, Creative Control, Who's Right Podcast, P3 Radio. And guys, remember, keep it at 100. Patreon site is only $1. Help my buddy JoJo out there. Only $1. Join us next week for another great episode of Shootin' the Shiznit.